Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, the number one network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the number one sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond in London, England, as well as Paris, France, and of course you good old boys from Africa. We know you love your Africa, so please quit sending out the hate mails. We don't name you first, but we do name you. We do want to say we love you up in Canada, but Big C, there's no one we love more than you good old boys down south, in the land of the free and the home of the brave. Big C, how's it going for you good old boys down south?
Well, Charlton, I'm dog-tired and a little ticked off. Missed the show yesterday because we were out wild boar hunting. The dang hog stepped on my phone. We didn't get him down fast enough, so we had to run up a couple trees. And he stepped on my phone in hot pursuit, but he eventually gave it up. Gave up the phone and gave up the rib.
And that's funny. Imagine how they fooled the wild game down south. When Santa Claus was hunting, you guys hunt in a Santa Claus suit, Big C. That makes it not fair. The good old animals coming around thinking they're going to open up some gifts, and you open up a case of lead on them good old boys. I know it probably tastes real good. Today is a beautiful December 27th, 2017 in the land of the free, in the home of the brave. Big C, so much to talk about in the world of sports. The NFL, everybody's talking about the NFL. The ratings are down. The ratings are not down. We just have more ways to watch the game and get more information. I think there's still the $14 billion a year industry. I think the NBA is a lot less than that, even though the ratings are up in the NBA. But I want to touch on, number one, I want to see how your Christmas turned out. I know you were out there hunting for wild boar in that Santa Claus suit. Doesn't make it quite fair, Big C, for you good old boys. Can you imagine Santa walking around? I don't know what you guys hunt with. We used to hunt with bow and arrow back in the day. What do you guys use now, Big C?
Some of the stuff may be legal, may be illegal. So, we can't disclose all of the arsenal that we use. So,
yeah.
But what we do use is very efficient, and it does make sure that dinner makes it to the table.
That's funny. I just thought it's funny when you go out and you hunt in a Santa Claus suit. They're expecting gifts, and you good old boys pull a Donald Trump, and you say it's fake. It's a fake suit. You could always say it was that, Big C, a fake suit. But with all the bowl games coming up, seems to be a plethora of bowl games. And we'll touch on that in the foundation, why some of these bowl games exist and why there's so many media outlets. I do want to say today's segment is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you. Big C, back in the day, we look at what happened with so many games being on television, and you talk about how many games there are. It's kind of hard to keep up with all of the college football games. But you think about what happened in the Rose Bowl, the granddaddy of them all. We're about to have Georgia and Oklahoma play for the first time that they've ever played. And you think about that. There's been over 1,200 games apiece since the 1890s. And I think about this. Why are there so many games right now? The NCAA, can you believe they fought to have these conferences having their own networks for many years, Big C? What are your thoughts on why they did that, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charles, no one wants to give away free money. That's how the NCAA looks. They were giving away free money by allowing these conferences to develop their own networks.
Yeah.
When you have, ultimate control of everything, you have a dictatorship.
Yeah.
And that's what the NCAA has been for decades, Charles, a dictatorship. It's different how they police certain people, certain universities, how they look at sanctions.
Yep.
Depending on the size and the heritage of a university. Everything is not done equally within the NCAA. We look at Baker Mayfield, perfect example, this year's Heisman Trophy winner.
Yeah.
We've seen players do as much as Baker Mayfield and less as Baker Mayfield, than Baker Mayfield, and be suspended their entire season.
Yep.
But the NCAA turned a blind eye on a couple of criminal acts by Baker Mayfield because of what he meant financially to the University of Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Also to the NCAA, Charlton. And he got his team into this 14 carousel.
Yeah.
That is going to bring a plethora of money and notoriety to the university and the NCAA, Charlton. So when we look at the good old boys who govern the NCAA, you're always wondering, what is it in it for them?
Yeah.
It's not just the salary they make, because they're like politicians, Charlton. Okay, they have a position.
Yeah.
You tell me which congressman, which senator, is happy making less than $200,000 a year to get holding America for ransom every year. You can't pass a budget that will last for 2 or 3 years. They last for 2 or 3 months, maybe sometimes 5 or 6 weeks. A budget that you put in place. You can't pass anything.
No.
And you're elected by the people, just like the NCAA. They're elected. The leaders of the NCAA. And I remember years ago when Miles Brand ran it all, Charlton. And that was a total dictatorship. But now that everyone has their own networks as far as conference goes, the NCAA, it's still the tentacle that holds everything together, though, Charlton.
Yeah, and when we think about that, Big C, I think back to it's 1984 when the NCAA had a case that went to the Supreme Court, 1984. And they won a 7-2 decision allowing schools and conferences to make their own deals for television coverage instead of it all being, handled by the NCAA as a monopoly. It's an antitrust violation when you don't pay people for their labor. But that's what the NCAA, they had to have the Supreme Court step in. And the reason they didn't want a lot of televised games and a lot of radio stations, and now the internet, that's how we get out there to the world and the universe, the sports universe, with the internet radio, because they wanted to control all of it. But it's an antitrust violation, and with all of the talk about the NCAA having the best, the best ideas for the players in mind, they want to do the best for the student athletes, Big C. They fought to not have competition in the broadcasting of the games, and going back to 1981 where USC played Oklahoma, and I think USC won 28-24, and they won in the last 2 seconds. They were in the top 5 in the country. They also had Appalachian State versus the Citadel. Would you believe that all 4 universities were to get the same amount of money, no matter who was ranked higher, no matter who was bringing in more money, no matter who was more popular, because the NCAA controlled that? Could you imagine USC versus Oklahoma? How many people would rather watch the Citadel, versus Appalachian State? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, what the NCAA did by monopolizing everything, and it's the same thing that the NFL has had with all these other fledgling leagues that have come along. They've run them out of business because of the monopolization. And they could tell the networks that they were broadcasting, you could broadcast this guy who is trying to be an upstart, or you can have this established product. And if you try to do both, we won't do business with you. And so that's what the NCAA has done over the years. So even with this plethora of bowl games that they have now, the NCAA is getting a cut. I mean, you can sit there and see nobody in the stadiums. And this is why you have so many bowl games now. Is because conferences have their own networks, and the NCAA lost some of the money. So the NCAA, by having some 48 bowl games during the off-season, Charlton, after the regular season, they're still getting a cut of network revenue because they're sanctioned by the NCAA. The NCAA governing body still sanctions all of these bowl games. So the more bowl games that are out there, regardless that you only got 7,000 people in a stadium and you're losing money from the sponsor of the bowl game, the NCAA is getting theirs off the top. And if you've looked around at some of these bowl games, Charlton, you only want to leave them on for 2 series. You watch each team for 2 series because they never pan into the stadium. I saw a game the other night, and the most people on one side of the field were the players. And it's like, okay. And I know the players got to feel bad. I know there was a lot of talk last year, Charlton, when players started sitting out bowl games. And some people were saying, well, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for some players. Yes, it is.
It's a money grab.
Those players should go ahead and play.
They should play. They should play for themselves, though. They should play for themselves, Big C. Go ahead.
You have these players you know that are going to get drafted, okay? Why risk the injury in a meaningless bowl game that somebody else is making money off of? If you're a potential first-round draft pick, second-round draft pick, and you go out and play in one of these bowl games, you blow out your knee. I mean, this happened to a linebacker, the Cowboy, the Smith kid that played at Notre Dame. And blows out his knee in a bowl game. And he was a top 10 prospect. And he spent a year on IR. Fortunately enough, the Dallas Cowboys stuck with him, and now he's in the starting lineup because he was that much of a talent. But think about how much money he lost, because he would have been a first-round draft pick. Instead, he went in the second or third round to the Cowboys. And he had to miss a year of playing, so no incentives, no signing bonus, nothing. They had a... But that's what a bowl game bowl game potentially cost him $10 to $12 million.
Yeah.
Just one individual. And there's been many other players, Charlton, that have been injured in bowl games, and all of a sudden the draft stock has fallen, not even gotten drafted.
Yeah.
But the NCAA and the university still get paid for these bowl games. I mean, I always look at bowl games. If you're not playing for a national championship, this is when you play all of next year's prospects.
Yeah.
Let the players who have been backups all year long play. So you get at least a half a game out of them to know what you have to look forward to next year other than just in spring ball.
Yeah, that makes a big difference, Big C. It's all about the money. You know, the one thing that never came out of this, even with the Supreme Court stepping in 1984, they knew they were getting this money grab. The NCAA, and you think about it when you watch all the college football games, and we love college football and college basketball, so it's not like we're saying we don't want the sport. Of course we want the sport. But when there's billions of dollars coming in, where's the money for the young athlete? I mean, you could say, well, they're student athletes. Yeah, they're student athletes, so they practice for the school. They travel for the school. A lot of these kids are even playing during the holiday break. They're not being in the classroom. So when the money's there on the table, what if we were to cut the NCAA out of it? Okay, would they say, hey, well, you know, we're doing it for the love of it? They would not stand for that. In fact, people just keep in mind, they have to be told by the Supreme Court that they cannot control everything. It's almost as if they're run by a mob group, Big C. And I know they put on out there with the student athlete and how we all have our favorite schools and the alumni come back and they want to be there for their favorite team in the bowl game. And I think about the granddaddy of them all in the Rose Bowl and how Georgia and Florida are playing for the first time only. They're in the backyard of UCLA and USC. And it goes back to when USC played Oklahoma that we actually had some pushes by the court, some issues that happened in the court that made the NCAA open up their purses and allow more people to go in and grab some of that money. But they never, Big C, they never addressed how they're going to compensate the student athlete. Do you think that's something that will ever happen, even say the next 20 years, Big C? Because in the last 50 years, that's been a big push to have more networks covering games. When will the students get their money, Big C, your thought?
Well, Charlton, the fight about that will always be, well, there's different sizes of universities, different revenue streams brought into different universities. But now with the broadcast networks, Charlton, all over the place, when you only had 3 networks broadcasting games, ABC, NBC, and CBS, it was a little different. And you only had a regional game each day. So maybe 6 games on Saturday were broadcast in a regional perspective. Now you got 6 games every hour being broadcast. Everybody's fighting for airtime. There's so much college airtime, Charlton. It's hard to even run a commercial. That's how much college airtime is being utilized on football games. I think there's an equal number of football games broadcast to basketball games now. When you look at it on the weekend, I mean throughout the week, but on the weekend there was an equal number. And so when you look at the amount of money that's coming in, the NCAA stance will always be, well, how do we ration out the revenue? Because do we pay just basketball and football players? Are the baseball players entitled to it? Are the women's basketball team, the swimming team, track and field? That's their fight, and that's their edge that they will always use. That's that one carrot that they have, is that we can't equally shell out the money. Yes, you can.
Yeah, they can.
You shell it out based on who brings in the revenue. That's the bottom line. If women's basketball is bringing in the revenue like at South Carolina, like at Baylor, like at North Carolina, like at Connecticut, they're bringing enough revenue to pay those ladies. They bring enough in. If you have a lesser university and you don't bring in any revenue, maybe you need to improve the level of play that you have. It comes down to the coach that you have. I mean, because when we look at how you can go out and pay your friends all this money, Nick Saban, $9 million. Urban Meyer, $7.5 million. Jim Harbaugh just went up to $10 million. You paid Dabu $75 million guaranteed. You're paying all these guys $40 to $50 million to come into your university and coach. And that's just the head coach. That's not his coaching staff. That's what people don't understand. When you're paying the head coach that type of money guaranteed, it's like when you look at the SEC, Charlton. They have 5, make that 6 of the top 15 paid assistant coaching staffs in the entire country. One conference. The SEC has 6 of the top 15 no one's starving. So when you sit around and you say that, all you have to say at any university, Charlton, is whatever you're paying a head coach.
Yep.
If the NCAA ever wants to figure this out, as far as what to pay a player, whatever you're paying a head coach, then 10% of that should be doled out to the players, even 5%.
Yeah.
Take 5% of it. Whatever his salary is, and you set aside a slush fund, that 5 to 10% of that is going to be paid out to every player on the team.
Yeah.
And paid out equally. Then you don't have to worry about it, because this will stop these universities going out and having these exorbitant salaries, or they can continue. It's not like they're losing money when they pay a coach $8 million a year.
No, you're right.
So of that, you take $800,000 and say, oh, there's $800,000. How many players we got on the team? 120?
Yeah.
Okay, that's going to be doled out equally. Or even if you take $400,000 of that, Charlton, and dole it out amongst the players. That would be an equitable number. You can find a percentage of a head coach's salary to pay to the players of every university. So whether you're going down to Division III, Division I AA, Charlton, you can go out and say, okay, if this coach is only making $700,000 a year, okay, that's $70,000 we peel off to dole out through the players equally.
Yeah.
But that's the way that you figure out what the players are going to be paid.
Yeah.
Is that you take 10% of every head coach in the country, and that is to be allocated out through the players on the team.
Yep. I tell you what, it's not that far-fetched from happening, Big C. And I think about, you know, how we talk about sports and politics are the same. When people say, no, sports and politics, how do they mix? It's because of the Supreme Court that you got so many more networks covering sports. Don't ever say that sports and politics don't mix unless you're ignorant. Think about something. As Justice John Paul Stevens, he delivered an opinion holding that the NCAA violated the Sherman Act with its stranglehold on television and college football. Without that, there'd be no Big C sports to cover, because they would only allow the networks to decide who them good old boys was called a stranglehold by the Sherman Act. That's by a judge said it was a stranglehold. A judge said that. You know, the guys who study politics, Big C, a judge, they said it was a stranglehold. There'd be no Big C sports. There'd be a lot of other people who could not even bring to you the sports in the way they look at things. I want to bring something up. Notre Dame, they broke from the CFA and made its own $38 million TV deal, starting with NBC Sports in 1991. In 1994, them good old boys down their neck of woods, the Southeastern Conference, they signed a 5-year deal with CBS Sports in 1996 worth $90 million. That's million with an M, them good old boys down there. Last thing I'll bring up. Think about what's happening with sports and politics. This is only possible because of politics. If we keep talking about it, the players will soon get their cut, or at least an annuity. Now, 39 schools were paying their coaches over $3 million this season. Okay, 39 schools are paying their coaches over $3 million this season. Big C, in 2011, there were only 9 schools that were paying coaches that amount of money. So you've seen that big upswing, all because the court got involved. So I know we all want to enjoy watching the bowl games. We have a few more bowl games tonight. The Independence Bowl in Shreveport, Louisiana. That's already been played with Southern Miss at Florida State. Then the Pinstripe Bowl in New York, Boston College in Iowa. The Foster's Farm Bowl in Santa Clara out here in the Bay Area starts tonight at 8:30 on Fox. That's Purdue playing Arizona. Who wants to travel from Arizona and also from Purdue to come back and see to California to see a bowl game? They should have those games regionalized. And then the Texas Bowl that's in Houston with Missouri playing Texas. That makes more sense because at least you have a Texas school involved. But I like the fact that you brought up, Big C. It's not about you can't pay the players. What sport's gonna pay more? If the NCAA or any college athletic fund gets any revenue coming from a school, the same way anyone else who pays their tax returns, that money can be divvied up with the shareholders who make that money, and the shareholders happen to be the student athletes. They can figure it out because the NCAA has figured out a way to keep it for themselves. Big C, I want to touch on a few more things before we touch on just a little bit of NFL football. I know these big games coming up, and we'll preview more with the national championship game. But I got to get your thought on the history of USC and Ohio State. We talked about Dick Enberg broadcast at one of their games. That game's in the Cotton Bowl down in Arlington, Texas, Jerry Jones country, December 29th. Both teams are 11-2. Ohio State's favored by 7.5. But just give me your thoughts on the history of these two great programs. They're meeting in the state of Texas for some reason. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, this was an iconic rivalry that has met in the Rose Bowl, the Granddaddy Mall, 9 times. Charlton.
Yeah.
9 times they've met in the Rose Bowl, and several of those led to a national championship. And you think about it, the Heisman Trophy winners that have played in that great series, Charlton, over the years, going back to Jim Otis, great fullback in the 60s for Ohio State, Archie Griffin, only 2-time Heisman Trophy winner that has played. USC had a backfield with 2 Heisman Trophy winners, Marcus Allen and Charles White.
Yep.
So, when you think about the great teams that have played over the decades, from those 2 universities, Charlton, and now they've been put in the middle of the country out in Texas.
Yeah.
I mean, they both have great following. They both have great players. But, it seems a little bit misplaced when you think about John McKay and Woody Hayes, being in Texas instead of California, that time of the year. John Robinson, being out there. John Cooper, not being in Pasadena. So there's been a wealth of tremendous talent and history that have gone through these universities, Charlton. But, to be in the Cotton Bowl and you talk about the regionalized, and I guess that's a halfway meeting point for the first time.
Yeah.
With these 2 universities meeting halfway in Texas. And, they do things big in Texas, so both of these schools have an opportunity to showcase. I know last time USC was out there, they may still have a hangover. I don't know if they found that horse yet.
They learned to bring their own Gatorade, Big C. They know that they said, you never go to a party, and we tell people don't drink something unless you brought it. The Gatorade tastes a little bit fishy, Big C. Them good old boys drink it anyway, but they should have known something when the horse was passed out, that there's not something. They were sluggish against Alabama, but I think you're right in the regionalizing of games. It would make more sense if this game were played on the West Coast or even in the Midwest because there's enough stadiums to do it. Another big game I want to bring you to is we have Washington from the Pac-12 Conference. And Washington's playing Penn State out of the Big Ten. That's called the Fiesta Bowl in Glendale, Arizona. I know they're gonna have a big crowd there anyway. But you already had the Washington Huskies. They have such a big following as well as Penn State. They're making both teams go south. When Arizona's in a game coming up north, I think it could have made more sense to regionalize these games. And I think when I watched the fans, and you talk about how the stands, they don't show the stands a lot in these games. It's an embarrassment to the NCAA, even the sponsor that might start wanting some of their money back, Big C, when they see stadiums that hold 75,000 with about 30,000 people in the stands. The simple solution is do what the Division 2 and 3 do. They play it at a home site. They have a way to play it at a regionalized site because it's easier to make that trip. Big C, how close do you think we are? A lot of things we talk about happen. How close do you think we are to seeing that happening where if you're not playing for the national championship, they're just going to throw you in a regional bowl game? There's enough stadiums all over the country. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, that's the most intelligent move to make. They say, well, it's about money, what's going to be infused into a local market because you have 2 teams coming in and they bring in fans, Charlton. But if you only bring in 3,000 fans to a game, there's no money coming in.
No.
I mean, let's be realistic about that.
They're robbing
Every
TV.
team is allocated an X amount of tickets, and they can't even sell their own tickets.
Yeah.
And so, as a player, it's almost like being at practice. When you sit up, the NCAA is known for electricity.
Yeah.
Show me when you don't have a team with electricity. I mean, the only team that has played a home game is Florida International.
Yeah.
They played a home game for a bowl game, and it wasn't even sold out.
No.
Because it was played in the middle of the week. People have lives.
Yeah.
And so when you set these games up, and at this time of the year during the holidays, and money has been stretched with a lot of people, regardless of being a booster or whatever, alumni of a university, money's stretched this time of year because people have families and they got to take care of them.
Yeah.
And so that's going to be prioritized. To go to a bowl game where you got to travel 2,000 miles, to go to a game and you're not playing for anything significant. And matter of fact, Dalton, because of the number of bowl games now, when you have a team that's 6-6, 7-5 going to a bowl game, people are not really interested. It should be double-digit wins. I mean, let's just throw out this bold eligibility of winning 6 games. That's what has driven down the notoriety of all these bowls.
Yeah.
Is that teams get bowl eligibility in 6 games. Matter of fact, last year, Charlton, they had 5 teams that were under 500 that they put in the bowl games because they had to fill slots.
Yeah.
You put in 5 teams in bowl games that were 5 and 7.
Yeah. 5
and 7 got 6 teams in the bowl games last year. So they have 17.
That's crazy.
And so when we look around the country and we want to see a bowl game of competitiveness,
yeah.
and you're sitting there and one team is 75, the other team is 66. I mean, look at University of Texas.
Yeah.
You talked about them playing.
6 and 6.
500 ball club.
They're 6 and 6, yeah. But
they
all
have 500 ball club. And yet they get a decent game. That's the Bluebonnet Bowl, which used to be the New Year's Eve game before the big granddaddy games on New Year's Day.
Yeah.
But, that's how far it's gone, is that now you take 6 and 6 teams because you got to have somebody to put into a bowl game.
Yep.
And what if they didn't perform and pack the house during the regular season? They said you can take no competitors.
Yeah.
If we're playing during the regular season and we only got a 60% capacity on our game at home, why am I going to travel and this team is only 6 and 6 in a bowl game? I don't even care if it's in the same state.
Yeah, that makes sense, Big C. I think what they've done with the Alamo Bowl that comes up December 28th, that's in San Antonio, Texas, on ESPN. TCU is 10-3 versus Stanford 9-4, and they have TCU. So that's a home game for TCU. They can find a way to do that. Stanford's going to go out there. They don't really sell out their stadium either unless they have the big game versus Cal. Even the Pac-12 championship against USC, that was a large crowd, but it was not a sellout just 10 miles away from the stadium, Big C, because people have more things to do than go, travel for a 2,000-mile bowl game. So at least a TCU should have a big crowd down there in San Antonio. Another game that doesn't make a lot of sense, when I look at North Carolina State playing in the Sun Bowl in El Paso, Texas, that's going to be CBS Sports. They're 8-4 versus Arizona State 7-5, and North Carolina State's favorite by 6.5 in that game. Arizona State, that's not too far for them to travel, but it's kind of a distance for North Carolina State to come out. And then just what you talked about, we have a Utah State at 6-6 versus New Mexico State 6-6, and that's going to be in the. If I'm reading this right, that's going to be in the Tucson Bowl in Arizona. So maybe it's the Arizona Bowl in Tucson. It doesn't make any sense. I don't even know what bowl I'm reading. It's called the Arizona Bowl in Tucson. Utah State 6-6 versus New Mexico State 6-6, and they're playing that game as if people are going to show up. I want to ask your thoughts. We know the money grab is out there. I think we have too many bowl games. I think they need to trim back some of the bowl games, but we know it's a money grab. But if they trim back some of the bowl games, if you win a bowl game, what they do in junior college ball is they let the home team host one of those games. So they can still keep some of those games, but let the home team host a game. That way, at least you have a good crowd. Last bowls I want to touch on, Big C, and we'll get on it more, throughout the rest of the week. Your thoughts on Alabama and Clemson in the three-peat. This is going to be in the Sugar Bowl on New Year's Day, January 1st. And ESPN kickoff at 8:45. I know that they have Alabama favored by 2. And I know Alabama, you give Nick Saban more than 2 or 3 weeks to prepare, he's difficult to beat. I know some of their linebackers are healthier now. But something's telling me that this Clemson team, they were not just Deshaun Watson last year. Their defense is good. I think Dabo Swinney has turned the corner when it comes to recruiting some of the best players in the country. And Nick Saban doesn't have the offensive coordinator he had when he won the last couple of national championships, Big C. Give me your thoughts on, do you think Alabama might be in a little bit of trouble and Las Vegas giving them a 2-point favorite might be a little fool's goal like you hunting in that Santa Claus suit, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I honestly do think that it is fool's goal. I mean, if you look at Alabama's offense, it has not been the same since Lane Kiffin has gone. I mean, regardless of the turmoil that they had within, Nick Saban was seeing that Lane Kiffin was getting a lot of the notoriety.
Yep.
He could not take that. This is my house, as he was saying. You're just a guest here.
Yeah.
It's time to go.
Yeah.
And when you stop putting the glass and the plate at the table for the guests, they know that, there's no more food. It's time to roll.
Yeah.
So he left. He brought in Sarkisian.
Yeah.
Sarkisian didn't work out, and he was gone before the coffee got cold in the cup.
Yep.
He went out to New England and brought in an offensive coordinator, and he was an assistant at New England. He wasn't a coordinator, just an offensive assistant.
Yeah.
The offense hasn't clicked the way that Alabama would like for it to do this year, Charlton. Their running game has not been as dominant as what it was under Kiffin. And so there's been some changes that have been made. When you look at Clemson, I mean, Kelly Bryant has stepped in and really picked up what Deshaun Watson left off. Other than that early season injury that he had with the ankle and the concussion, Charlton, you really haven't noticed much of a difference in Clemson offense. The defense that they have is very, very stout. Everybody's always talking about Bama's defense. They got the best defensive back in the country in Bama. But other than that, they've been hurt at the linebacking core, Charlton. So that middle part of the defense has really struggled. Clemson has one of the top 3 front fours in the entire country. So they will bring pressure all night long. So, you know, this is going to be a challenge for her, the quarterback for Alabama this year. Can he do it? You know, with last year he didn't have a solid offensive coordinator. This year he has the entire season under his belt. But he hasn't faced a defense like Clemson all year long, Charlton. And when he did get close to a defense like Clemson, they lost. They lost to Georgia. Alabama. They were throttled by Auburn. And so this defensive front that he's going to be facing with Clemson is even better than the one that Auburn had. So expect a lot of trouble. And Kelly Bryant can throw the ball just like Jarrett Stidham did against them.
Yeah, and you know, you bring up a point, too. When I look at Saban, who's been a great coach, but you look at Kiffin, see, people got to realize how talented Kiffin has been. When you look at Alabama, only getting 2 points, and they've had a month to prepare. And I know Nick Saban has all the name and all the pedigree, and Alabama may just win this game because they're that good. But something doesn't feel right that you have 30 days to prepare, and them good old boys out in the Vegas, they only make you a 2-point favorite, and you're playing in your region of the country down there in New Orleans. You know, I'm not a betting man, Big C, but I know next time I see Santa, if I'm in a reindeer suit, I might make sure I take that reindeer suit off, Big C, because based on the story you told me, you go hunting in the Santa Claus suit. That don't make any sense for the animals. I want to bring up another game. We just talked about it slightly coming into this contest. I look at Oklahoma at 12-1 versus Georgia at 12-1, and Georgia's favorite by 1 in the Rose Bowl of all places, out in Pasadena, a 5 o'clock kickoff on ESPN, the granddaddy of them all. Just give me your thoughts on Georgia's history. You know, we go back to the great Herschel Walker. They had him. They had Garrison Hurst. They had that good old boy that played for the Denver Broncos that is a Heisman Trophy. Not a Heisman Trophy, but he Hall of Fame running back now. This rushed for 200 yards in the Super Bowl against Green Bay.
Davis.
Yeah, Davis and Terrell Davis. And I think about Gurley. Gurley, to me, I know they talk about quarterbacks being the NFL, MVP. But you find a guy that can take the ball on a screenplay and run 90 yards for a touchdown. He can also rush for 1,000 yards from the line of scrimmage. And tell me how Gurley's not up for MVP of the league. It doesn't make Goff can't rush for 1,000 yards. Neither could not Carson Wentz. Tom Brady couldn't rush for 1,000 yards. Yeah, they can throw the ball, but Gurley's like a 1,000-yard receiver if you give him a chance, and a 1,000-yard running back, and he's out of Georgia. And then you look across the line, Oklahoma. Go back to the days of Bosworth, and they had Turner Gill played back there at Oklahoma. Jamil Holloway. They've had so many great players. The great Troy Aikman played at Oklahoma before he broke his leg and was shipped out to UCLA. And just give me your thoughts on the history of these two great programs meeting, on the West Coast for some reason. Big C, your thoughts.
For Georgia, when you think about them dogs, Charlton, they have had a history. You go back to Vince Dooley.
Yeah.
Being the head coach there. Vince Dooley, won a national championship with Herschel Walker beating Penn State in a perfect season. Matter of fact, Herschel Walker, if he'd have stayed in college, would have been college football's all-time leading rusher, Charlton. He'd have pushed it out over 7,000 yards in his career. He had some 5,800 yards and only played, 3 seasons. Three seasons. So, Vince Dooley built a legacy at Georgia, Charlton. He ran on some hard times. Once he left, Mark Richt came in and developed that program. And you talk about the great running backs they had, the Garrison Hurst, the Terrell Davis, Herschel Walker, Todd Gurley. Now they have a Nick Chubb, who is really the SEC's number 2 all-time leading rusher behind Herschel Walker.
Yeah.
So they have developed some solid quarterbacks, Charlton. Think about Matthew Stafford. The quarterback from the Detroit Lions has come out of the University of Georgia.
Yeah.
A.J. Green, top receiver with Cincinnati. They have developed some talent, Charlton, that has moved on to the NFL.
Yeah.
You think about the big defensive line that played with the Patriots and the Raiders for a long time. A couple Super Bowls with the the Patriots.
Yeah.
Also his name at the moment.
Yeah.
They traded him to the Raiders. The Patriots did. But, you know, when you look at Oklahoma and you think about the track of players that they've had, the Heisman Trophy winners
Yeah.
that have played at the University of Oklahoma, Johnson, Steve Owens, you know, Billy Sims.
Yeah.
You know, these guys have gone out and laid the track down for a lot of players over the years. You think about Jamel Holloway that you talked about, Troy Aikman.
Yeah.
Prior to breaking his leg, Jamel Holloway took over for him. J.C. Watts led him to a national championship, Charlton, at quarterback. But Barry Switzer, you know, was an icon in that area for a long time, Charlton. And he was known for winning. Bob Stoops always found a way to lose a big game and not make it to a championship game.
He found a way to do that.
But Lincoln Riley, in his first year, you really have to take your hat off to him.
Yeah.
He inherited a team that Bob Stoops had built, but he found a way to keep this team winning, Charlton. They had the one hiccup against Iowa State during the season, Charlton, but as a young coach, in his first year on the job, Charlton, to make it to the national championship carousel, that's a heck of a job, Charlton, and these players have responded to his coaching style this year at Oklahoma.
Yeah, I tell you what, Big C, it's great football. I love the way you know the history of these bowl games that go way back in the day, and now people get to see it because we have the NCAA that lost this suit to get with the Supreme Court stepping in. Hopefully they'll do the same thing, at least fund some type of an annuity for the athletes. I do want to say that sports is a billion-dollar industry, and boys and girls sports is the foundation to this billion-dollar industry. And for every athletic and sporting event, you need athletic and event insurance. We work with Ben and Mark. They've been around half a century. They work with Big C Sports. If you're a pro team, a collegiate team, a high school team, even your mom and pop soccer league, when you reach out to them, let them know that Big C sent you at 800-772-8624. That's 800-772-8624. 800-772-8624. Big C, I know we're coming down to this NFL grab for who's going to run for the Super Bowl, and we love it. This time of year really makes football as exciting as anything. We talk about the NBA has the Game 7 of the NBA Finals. In the Super Bowl, sometimes it has been a dud, but we've had a couple of good ones lately. But the playoff run, Big C, that's what makes it exciting to me. I want to just run down a few things that could happen to get your thoughts as you've been so poignant. In the preseason, you were talking about some things that might happen, and now they seem to be coming to fruition. I look at the wild card berth, and it's exciting because we still go into the game, you know, week 16 of the season. It hasn't been decided yet. Give me your thoughts on the New England Patriots in the AFC. They've locked up, you know, the home field advantage. The Eastern champions again. They can clinch it with the win over the Jets, so that's probably just a lock. And Pittsburgh would have to lose, but you know, they even have a tiebreaker with Pittsburgh. So no matter what happens, they're going to get in. Give me your thoughts on them. They just acquired James Harrison from the Steelers. Your thoughts on New England, again, making all the right moves for the playoffs, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, that was Richard Seymour that we were talking about from Georgia.
Oh, yeah.
That played with the Patriots, went to the Raiders. You know, when you look at the Patriots, Charlton, they're in a prime position right now, as they always are this time of year. I know there's a lot of chatter talk about why did the Patriots give up Jimmy Garoppolo and not Tom Brady because
they don't
he
need
was
him.
Younger than two.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been a lot of young quarterbacks, Charlton, that look good for a game or two, even a season. I mean, they had Matt Castle years ago when Brady went down, who looked great, made the Pro Bowl, went to Kansas City, made the playoffs 1 year. That was it, 1 year. You know, and he's been a journeyman ever since.
Yeah.
So, you know, when you look at Brady, you want to take that staple of security, of consistency, and that's Tom Brady. When Tom Brady is at the quarterback position, Charlton, everybody who's watching the game feels that New England has a chance to win.
They do.
Even the opposing team.
Yeah.
Like, hell, they're going to beat us today. You know, they go in with that mindset.
Yeah.
No one goes in with that mindset with Garoppolo. Yes, he's looked good. But Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, people like, you know, we can lose this game today. You walk in, and they're playing the Jets this week.
Yeah.
The Jets are playing a young quarterback, okay?
Yeah.
They're not worried about the Jets. The Jets are trying to get the season over with.
Yeah.
And they know that this is just a tune-up game. The Jets played them hard the first time. They lost on that controversial play, but with Petty playing quarterback, Charlton, this is just petty theft for the Patriots. position.
Petty theft. And still, I don't think anything's worse than you good old boys hunting for those, I guess, were you guys hunting reindeer too, Big C, in the Santa Claus suit, Big C, or was it just some of the other wildlife that you good old boys
Well, we don't want to put the kids in shock this time of year, so we can lay off Bambi and the family.
That's so funny, Big C. I still get a laugh when a Santa Claus going hunting in the reindeer suit. Big C, the Pittsburgh Steelers, the number 2 seed in the AFC. They're 12-3, just like New England. So if both teams win, New England's still going to win the tiebreaker against them. But if you look at them, the AFC North champion, and they're going to play the Browns. The Browns, they'll probably get their celebration. I think they wanted a parade if they went, winless on the season. So that's probably going to happen. Just give me your thoughts on the Pittsburgh Steelers. They should get their receiving core back healthy, for the playoffs. And I think when you look at having their running backs and their wide receivers locked up, I think the Steelers, there's just something about them. It's hard to repeat in the NFL as a champion. There's something about the Steelers and their moxie. It's led by their head coach in Tomlin. This is a team that can win on the road and at home. Your thoughts about them being the number 2 team if they meet up with New England, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, you saw how well their receivers played just a couple days ago against Houston.
Yeah.
But that was against Houston, okay?
Yeah.
The linebacking core on that defense is not stable any longer without Shazier in the lineup, Charlton. When you look at linebackers around the NFL and key elements in a certain defense, you look at Sean Lee in Dallas, how Dallas is when he's not in the lineup. You look at Ryan Shazier in Pittsburgh when he's not in the lineup. He's such a tremendous athlete, Charlton, and a high-intensity, high-intelligent player, Charlton, who knows things are going to occur before they do it. He's always keeping the players in the right position.
Yeah.
And so when you get into the playoffs, Charlton, you're not playing the Houston Texans in the playoffs. Makes a big difference. We saw the difference without him in the lineup against against New England, Charlton, when they played it just a couple of weeks ago. Without that key element, Pittsburgh, didn't have a chance against that potency offense of New England.
Yeah.
And so they're most likely going to meet again in the playoffs, Charlton, and Shazier still won't be there.
Yeah.
You may not even have Brown this time around, Charlton, and if Brown is not there, you're really going to have some problems.
Yeah.
But, Pittsburgh, they'll walk through Cleveland. Ben has only lost one game in his career against the Browns.
Yep.
He's not going to make it 2 this weekend.
No, you probably won't make it 2 this weekend, Big C. There's so much on the line with that. I want to get your thoughts on Jacksonville, the number 3 seed. They've locked up a playoff spot. They're 10-5 on the season. The AFC South champion. They really have nothing at stake in this game this weekend. Just give me your thoughts on Jacksonville. How do you lose at San Francisco when all throughout the year we're talking about them being perhaps a team that would compete, they did get their division at the top of the division, but this is not a playoff team that's going to make any noise if they can't beat a team like San Francisco on the road. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, this comes back to your quarterback, Charlton, who's not ready for the big games, who's not consistent. That's Blake Bortles.
Yeah.
When this team is down, you don't have a quarterback that can come from behind for you, and Blake Bortles haven't proven that throughout his entire career. When his running backs weren't healthy against San Francisco, he was left to shoulder the load, Charlton, and he's not man enough yet in the NFL at the quarterback position to get his team over the hump without his great running backs.
Yeah, that's a good point, Big C. Kansas City, the Chiefs look good. They wrapped up the AFC West back-to-back in that division for the championship for the first time, and they're looking at being a 4th seed. They're 9-6 on the season. And Alex Smith, they had that slump in the beginning of the season. They had a hot streak. They won 5 in a row beginning of the season, and then they started losing games, and there was talk should we trade Alex Smith. Has Andy Reid lost it? Are they no longer, the darlings of the Midwest, and now they come on strong, and they're playing like a team that could upset someone in the playoffs? Your thoughts on the Chiefs with Andy Reid heading into the playoffs again, Big C?
Well, Charlton, that's always been Kansas City's hiccup is that first round of the playoffs. They have not been able to get past the first round since Andy Reid has been the head coach in Kansas City or since Alex Smith has been there as a quarterback. They always have that first-round fumble where a couple of years ago they had a lead against the Colts, 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
And they end up losing in the 4th quarter. So they have to find a way to play 4 quarters of football, Charleston, once they get to the playoffs. They've been a first-half team. They go into the locker room with a lead. They come out, and they've gone to sleep. I mean, they drinking that Gatorade that they had down there at USC.
Yeah.
And for some reason, they can't figure out what to do in the second half.
Hey, that's funny. You bring up that Gatorade. It's a funny how you told me before that game when I was telling that USC was going to beat Alabama, and if the Trojans won, then I'd give you a free ride on that white horse, Big C. And you said you don't have to worry about getting a free ride on the white horse. You're going to be taking a nap. I had no idea what you were talking about until they said they were sluggish in that game. Big C, Baltimore looking at 9-6. They're going to be probably a wild card team that gets in, obviously. And just your thoughts on the Ravens. Not impressed with them, but they are 9-6, may finish 10-6 on the season. Big C, your thoughts?
This is a team that has relied on its defense all year long. He's had an inconsistent quarterback in Joe Flacco. That running game hasn't been stable. You don't know which receiver is going to step up. But that all goes back to the quarterback, Charlton. Joe Flacco, I mean, you think about a quarterback that's been around as long as he is, but as inconsistent as he is also. Without that great defense led by Terrell Suggs, who's a long-in-the-tooth veteran, but, he knows how to come in for the big game. They're going to need a big defensive run, Charlton, if they expect to go deep into the playoffs.
Yeah, and then you have rounding out the 6 is Tennessee is 8-7, looking to go to 9-7. They're fighting with the Los Angeles Chargers. They're 8-7. Looks like they're going to be out of the picture right now. But if Tennessee gets in, can we expect anything from Mariota, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, Tennessee is that young, inconsistent team also. Mariota at times shows flashes of brilliance. Other times you wonder why didn't he show up for the game?
Yeah.
What's been most disappointing about Tennessee, Charlton, is that dual-headed monster running back with Henry and Murray.
Yeah.
They just have not been consistent, and especially Murray. He's averaging less than 3 yards a rush, so they have not been getting it done. I don't know if it's the offensive line that's not getting that push, or they're just not filling the holes at the running back position.
Yeah. That's a good point, Big C. We'll swing in the last segment of the show to the NFC. We have the Philadelphia Eagles at 13-2, the NFC East champion, and they won't play another game outside of Lincoln Financial Field this season unless they reach the Super Bowl, which I think that's a little bit shaky right now. Even talking about that, looking at how the Raiders exposed them, with their defensive package. I think a lot of coordinators that are going to be in the playoffs are going to look at that Raider film with a team that wasn't going anywhere, and they challenged Philadelphia because Foles had a bad game. Big C, your thoughts? It's not the way you want to go into the playoffs when you have a shaky win at home against a team that's not going anywhere. Your thoughts on the Phillies' chances?
Well, it all falls on Foles when you look at it from an analyst perspective.
Yeah.
But it really wasn't him. I didn't see any receivers getting open, Charlton. The cold weather seemed to affect the receivers for Philadelphia.
Yeah.
They weren't fighting off the chucks at the line of scrimmage, and so that's what everybody's going to do. They're going to jam them and put some press coverage on them. But that offensive line, Charlton, was very leaky. And Nick Foles just didn't have a clean pocket most of the night. He's finished the night on his back on 2/3 of the pass that he attempted, Charlton. He was on his back. So, I mean, people will say, well, he's not as mobile as Carson Wentz. Yes, he is. But, when you're getting that type of pressure consistently from the defense and your receivers are not fighting to get open, and I understand that the weather was cold, but the Raiders were sitting out there on that same
cold weather. Yeah.
And they were from the West Coast. They didn't practice in that like Philadelphia.
No.
I mean, don't blame Nick Foles. I like what Nick Foles can do at quarterback, Charlton.
Yeah.
His teammates are going to have to step up. I mean, Carson Wentz was the benefactor of those guys stepping up. Carson Wentz went down. Nick Foles stepped into that game against the Rams. You didn't know Carson Wentz was not in there.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And he threw the ball the first 8 plays he was in the game against the Rams, Charlton. So it's not like he laxed as a quarterback throwing the ball down the field. But the rest of the components of that offense have to pick it up.
Yeah, that's a good point. Big C will swing out the Minnesota Vikings, the number 2 seed. They've clinched the NFC North. They beat the Bears and the Vikings get a week off. Minnesota can still get the bye if the Panthers lose or the Saints win or the Rams win. This looks like the Purple Peeper Eater defense from Bay. Is it Purple Peeper or Purple People? I think it's Purple People, but I said Purple Peeper. It's the same thing, Big C, when you think about the lexicon. I think Minnesota's defense looks good, but their offense is also strong. Your thoughts on them have a chance to host their own Super Bowl in their own backyard, Big C?
Well, Charlton, everybody knows that defense wins championships, and the Vikings have been playing a stout defense. Mike Zimmer is, former defensive coordinator with the Cincinnati Bengals under, Marvin Lewis. Moved on to the Vikings 3 or 4 years ago, Charlton, and has developed defense first. You think about it, over the last 3 seasons, Charlton, he's had 3 different quarterbacks. So this defense has had to hold this team together. 3 years ago, you had Teddy Bridgewater make the playoffs with the team.
Yep.
Last year, Sam Bradford fell apart halfway through the season. This year, Case Keenum, comeback player of the year in the NFL and a potential MVP candidate, has had solid year at quarterback, Charlton. You know, they came in, no one knew who their receivers were. They're 1-3 in the league in receptions and yardage, Charlton. They're 2 receivers. So this is a team that's solid. They lost Dalvin Cook, but the rest of the team has stepped up. He was their number 1 draft pick out of Florida, running back, and was one of the top rushers in the league when he went down with that devastating knee injury. But, you know, when you think about what Case Keenum has done, Charlton, Case Keenum has gone out there and played with house money all year long.
Yeah.
He hasn't felt any pressure. He's just like, I'm having fun.
Yep.
And that's what football is supposed to be. Just have some fun.
Yeah.
You know.
They always think about it that Big C. I think about something with the Rams. The Rams, the number 3 seed right now, they look like they're totally different than the team that played last year under Fisher. They're 11-4 in this season, should finish at 12-4. The NFC West champion and Division Kings for the first time since 2003. They will be hosting a wildcard game at the Coliseum, which should be a sold-out crowd for the NFL coming back to Los Angeles. Your thoughts on, I think Gurley could be considered the MVP because he can do it all offensively and defensively. No one else can do it like him in the NFL. I know they have Hunt out of Kansas City, but Gurley is just a different breed of cat. Or let me say a different breed of Ram. Your thoughts on the Rams' chances, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, the Rams' chances are outstanding because of Todd Gurley. But one thing I want to make note of, when you think about the quarterbacks in the NFC that are in the playoffs, and you mentioned Jeff Fisher's name, this is an ironic scenario. Jeff Fisher in the last 2 years had all 3 of these quarterbacks.
Yeah.
He had he had Nick Foles.
Yep.
He had Case Keenum. And Case Keenum and Nick Foles started with the St. Louis Rams before they moved to Los Angeles last year.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And last year, Case Keenum started the season with the Rams. He was a starting quarterback. Jared Goff, Case Keenum, and Nick Foles. This is the first time in NFL history that in over a 2-season span that one head coach had all 3 quarterbacks as a starter.
Yeah.
That's the first time in NFL history.
Yeah.
And you think about it, Jeff Fisher most likely will have a Super Bowl starting quarterback, Charlton, this year that he coached within the last 2 years.
That's a good point.
You know, and so, but the Rams go as Todd Gurley go. When people say, well, Jared Goff is a much improved quarterback, he is. But Todd Gurley is having the season again this year, Charlton, that he had as a rookie.
Oh, he's the best.
When the ball was given to him consistently.
Yeah.
And you could not just sit back in zone coverage and wait on a quarterback to try to throw the ball as they did last year with the Rams when you had no passing game because you had no running game either.
Yeah.
They improved the offensive line. They improved the receiving core. Todd Gurley is touching the ball, and as you say, he can take a swing pass and go 90 yards on a swing pass because he's that tremendous of an athlete.
Yeah.
Everybody knows that the Rams have one of the top defensive fronts in the NFL. Donald, the great defensive tackle they have, Charlton, is a load for anybody with his catch quickness in the middle.
Yep.
And so this is a team that can go a long ways, Charlton. I would not be surprised to see the Rams in the NFC Championship game.
I'm telling you, there's something about seeing Gurley run the ball, and if they're smarter than what Atlanta did last year when they had Freeman running all over New England, they stopped touching the ball consistently in the second half of the Super Bowl last year, and they gave it to Matt Ryan to pad his numbers to try to become the game MVP, and it bit him in the butt, Big C, or bit him in the wing. I guess Falcons have wings, not butt. You ever eat the part of the chicken butt, Big C? Does that taste good when you deep fry it? Yeah, I hear deep fried chicken butt tastes pretty good, man. But give me your thoughts also. I look at New Orleans, and I look at the Saints and how they already have Drew Brees and they have a chance. The NFC South leader, they're 11-4, should finish 12-4 in the season. But they just don't seem to have that home run factor that I see in the Rams and maybe even saw in Minnesota. Your thoughts on New Orleans, Big C?
Well, they have that unsung receiving core, Charlton, that people really don't pay attention to because their running game has been so solid this year, Charlton, with Kamara and Ingram.
Yeah.
That two-headed tandem that they've had in the backfield. But when you look at the statistics of the New Orleans receivers, Charlton, you know, I try to remember the young second-year player. You know, he's only the second player in NFL history to have over 90 receptions and 1,000 yards in his first 2 seasons.
Yeah.
So they really haven't fallen off in the defensive core. The biggest thing for the Saints is the improvement of their offensive line, Charlton, something they haven't had the past couple of years.
Yeah.
Is their offensive line has been allowing the time for Drew Brees to throw the ball as well as opening up for those running backs.
Yep.
And their defense has really been undercover as far as how good they have been, how stout they have been, to allow the Saints to get to a double-digit win season, Charlton.
That's a good point, Big C. Just a couple of more teams. The Carolina Panthers, the 5th seed right now, 11-4, should finish 12-4. The wild card berth is at stake for Carolina. A team that was in the Super Bowl just 2 seasons ago. They had the NFL's MVP in Cam Newton. They seem to be getting healthy again, Big C. Their defense is a little bit healthier. They have McCaffrey. They've added him in the backfield. They have a good passing game. Cam Newton has always been under fire. But this team is an upset team waiting to happen in the playoffs. Your thoughts on Carolina getting into the playoffs and maybe upsetting somebody?
Well, Charlton, if you get into the playoffs, there's really no upsets there. But when you look at Carolina, last year they tried to take the ball out of Cam Newton's hand. They didn't want him to run as much. And so it really sheltered Cam Newton and took away from his productivity. Everybody will say, well, he's not a solid NFL quarterback. Well, he's been an MVP in the league, so there's about a dozen other quarterbacks that haven't been the MVP in the league for all those naysayers that say Cam Newton is not a solid pro quarterback.
Yeah, give me a break.
He's been to the Super Bowl. I can look around and probably find 25 other quarterbacks that haven't been to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So, all those naysayers about Cam Newton, what he cannot and cannot do.
Yeah.
We talk about Christian McCaffrey coming into the lineup, Charlton, and helping out Cam Newton, which he has. And when you think about Cam Newton and people that say, well, he's not a consistent quarterback, who in the hell is in his receiving corps, Charlton?
That's funny.
He doesn't have a top-flight wide receiver.
Yeah.
You think about Devin Bunches, who was, a tight end when he was at Michigan. They converted to wide receiver.
Yeah.
They traded his top receiver in Kevin Benjamin.
Yep.
Greg Olsen, the tight end's been hurt most of the season, Charlton. So Cam Newton has done all this on his own. So when you talk about a quarterback and a team that doesn't have a supporting cast, let's look at Cam Newton and even put him back into that MVP conversation.
Yeah, he's probably also the best dressed player in the NFL outside of that guy that wore the Santa Claus suit out there hunting, Big C. I want to get your thoughts. 2 more teams. Atlanta Falcons 9-6 on the season. A wild card number 2 possibly. They got a win and they're in this conference, the second wild card team. Give me your thought. They were snake bitten last year in the Super Bowl. They fought really hard to get back into the playoffs, Big C. Your thoughts on Atlanta coming into the playoffs?
Well, Charlton, when you talk about the NFC South, that's the only division with 3 former MVPs in the same division at quarterback.
Yeah.
When you talk about Drew Brees, Cam Newton, and Matt Ryan.
Yeah.
But Matt Ryan, of the 3, has been the less consistent of all of them. When you think about the tools he has in Muhammad Sanu and Garrett and your next door neighbor Julio Jones.
He's not my neighbor. And I did not find that ring, even though I've been looking for it, Big C. I was still looking for that ring. I want my $5,000 reward for a $150,000 diamond earring, okay, Big C? Your thoughts?
That's called intelligence, okay?
Yeah.
You think other people are dumb enough to give you $150,000, okay?
Hey, Donald Trump became president. We have hope, Big C. We have hope.
When you look at the Falcons, Charlton, this is the most inconsistent offensive team in the NFL.
Yeah.
That has so much talent. You spoke about Freeman early. He and Coleman. Great tandem of running backs. You look at the 3-headed receiving corps that they have. But Matt Ryan is the trigger man in that offense that just can't seem to consistently get it done. He has Sarkisian as his offensive coordinator. We saw what happened with Sarkisian down in Alabama last year in that national championship game, Charlton, and Atlanta hasn't gotten any better with him as their offensive coordinator.
Yep.
But Matt Ryan, is that mystery type quarterback. He's like a rich man's Joe Flacco. Let's put it that way.
Yep.
Neither one of them worth a damn thing. All right.
I'll take their contract to the bank, though, Big C. I'll definitely take their contract to the bank, Big C.
Both of them $125 million quarterbacks.
I'll take it.
To the Super Bowl, Charlton. But, both of them have lacked consistency with the big dollar contracts.
Yeah.
And you look at, especially the talent that's around Matt Ryan, there's no reason why the Falcons shouldn't win 12, 13 games a year.
Yeah.
So it's not the talent. You have to look at the quarterback. When you look around the leagues, Charlton, there's other quarterbacks. They don't get blasted for having a lack of productivity that Matt Ryan does.
Yeah.
Okay?
No, that's true.
They get blasted. And Matt Ryan, he gets a pass. They find excuses for him. The excuse is that Matt Ryan, he has the nickname of Matty Ice.
Yeah.
They might want to call him Matty Saltstern.
Give me some Saltstern. You know he's down there in Georgia. You know what they put in the ice cream down in Georgia, Big C. A little bit of moonshine. Might be playing a little bit too relaxed. Last two things I want to touch on. The Seattle Seahawks probably out of the playoff push for the 6th time in a row. You know, they've been such a great franchise. The only hope is that they beat the Cardinals, what they should, but they got to hope that Atlanta loses. But I want to just blend in Seattle's chances real quick with the fact that the Dallas Cowboys are out. America's team is out. And there are people saying that maybe Jason Garrett's job on the line, or they say, well, maybe it's Dak Prescott's fault, or Ezekiel Elliott was hurt. Big C, or he was not hurt, but he was actually suspended for 6 games. I want to bring your thought to that because it was Jerry Jones that derailed this team the 2nd year in a row. Last year, they had the top record in the NFC going into the game with the Eagles, final game of the year. But he wanted to get Tony Romo one more step, and that killed the chemistry. It's kind of like getting married and your ex-girlfriend shows up and she wants to walk down the aisle. And that's what Jerry Jones did, and I think it cost the Cowboys last year. This year, trying to sue Roger Goodell in the NFL, I think that also cost the Cowboys. Your thoughts on Seattle, and then what happened down in Dallas, Big C?
Well, Jerry Jones has killed the momentum of the Cowboys on 3 different occasions, Charles. You think about when he got rid of Jimmy Johnson, and he killed the momentum of the team of the decade in the NFL because he felt that he could put anybody in and win. And Jimmy Johnson shouldn't be getting all that notoriety because the team belonged to him.
Yeah.
The same thing last year with Dak Prescott when he all year long, he talked about putting his boyfriend in, Tony Romo, into the lineup. I'm putting my boyfriend in the game.
Moonshine State.
Tony Romo, my boy, you know.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, he got him into the game, killed the team's momentum going into the playoffs. Green Bay Packers just drubbed them. And they try to say, well, Zach's not having a good game. Go back and look at Zach's statistics in that game versus the Green Bay Packers, okay? But also, I'm going to tell you one thing. Zach didn't play defense in that game, okay?
No.
He didn't play defense.
Not at all.
He didn't give up that great reception to Davis on the sideline when Rodgers hit him with that seed up the sideline to put him in field goal range. That wasn't Dak Prescott in zone coverage back there, okay?
No.
So, but this year also, if they had let Ezekiel Elliott take his suspension, and he could have got it reduced to 4 games. But no, he wanted to fight it, so they kept it at 6. Could have got it reduced to 4. If he'd have took the suspension, said, you know, I want to protest, they'd have dropped it down to 4. But Jerry Jones, you know, his ego, no, my boy's not doing anything wrong. Forget about what you saw in the damn videos, okay? Forget about that. He didn't do anything wrong, so I'm going to fight the NFL, and I'm going to try to get the commissioner fired. Also.
Talk about the Stones. Instead of focusing on the playoffs, we saw what happened. Big C, we love the holidays. We have so much to be thankful for with this holiday season. I'm so grateful that Big C Sports is available. I'm so grateful that the Supreme Court fought the NCAA on who could broadcast games. I'm so glad that we have Big C Sports. I'm so glad there's so many things this holiday season. I hope that everybody can be healthy, wealthy, and wise. Big C, back in the day, there was a man by the name of Drew Bundini Brown. He was Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. He would always tell Ali, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young men, rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Dalton, what I'm looking forward to in the sports universe is that the NBA season has started. We kicked it off on Christmas Day. We had some great games. We got the NBA MVP hunt in the chase already, and everybody knows that LeBron James is the best player in the NBA, and he proves it night in and night out. You'll get other players with a speckle of greatness, but LeBron James right now is having a career year statistically, and I'm looking forward to that trifecta, actually that 4th time around against the Warriors come May and June.
Yeah, that's true. He is absolutely the best player in the universe. I want to say every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. Follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. I want to say there's never, ever any excuse for domestic violence. If you know any woman going through that garbage, please call 911. Because no woman should ever have to go through that garbage all on her own. And as we tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.